so this is just a short update video on the car. Since you've last seen it, I've been working flat out to get it ready. Done a lot of mocking up of the supercharger and all the Rotrex oil cooler system. Figure out the radiator, where the oil cooler's going. Just loads of little bits and pieces which I don't want to have to deal with on the weekend that I install everything. So I'm going to be installing it over the bank holiday weekend at the end of May, at the 1st of June. I'm going to be actually getting it mapped. So we'll see what happens then. I'm going to take the camera along, I'm taking Joe along as well, and we're going to just see what happens. Hopefully it all stays together. So this video is just going to give you a bit of an overview of the clutch installation that we did. Unfortunately I didn't get any video because time restraints. It was pretty dark in the building that we were doing it in, and it just wouldn't have come out on camera very well. So I can cover some little points and make it hopefully easy for anyone that's going to do it. It's a lot easier to do it on a lift than it is on the floor, obviously. Obviously doing it on a lift you need some certain tools. Other than that, we've made, as I say, little changes, tweaks here and there, nothing major. I'll probably go over those when I do the mock, well not mock installation, the final installation, and we'll go from there. So I hope you enjoy the video. As you can see, I'm using the recommended Torco MTF for the LSD in the gearbox. I've used this since we installed the LSD and I've had no problems with it at all. To remove the gearbox from the EP3 requires removing the front subframe, and this means removing everything from it. So the front suspension arms, the anti-roll bar, the gear linkage, all the electronics, the engine front and rear engine mounts. Once that's been done, you can remove the passenger side engine mount and lower the engine down to get the gearbox off. All the gearbox bolts come through from the gearbox side into the engine, apart from the lower starter motor bolt, which comes in from the engine side. As you can see, I've got a facelift flywheel on the car, and it has had a bit of heat on it, but we've managed to sand it up and it came up quite nicely, so we're gonna reuse it. So this is what's left of the Exedi Stage 1 clutch. As you can see, the clutch disc is pretty much had it. There should be little grooves going this way on here, but they've all worn off. It's actually worn on the outside a little bit more than the inside as well, which is a bit strange. And it's like that on the other side as well. As you can see, just about see where the grooves should be, so they're worn right down to the bottom. So it's a good job we changed the clutch, because this definitely would not have held in the amount of power that we're going to be creating. The cover plate, as you can see, is in a little bit of heat, a bit like the flywheel, but this hasn't come off when we've tried to sand it with a bit of sandpaper. So this has basically had it. Yeah, I still think this is probably a good clutch if you're just going to daily drive it and you're not going to launch the car. I tried drag racing with this clutch and it did slip, as you can probably hear on that video, but yeah. Oh, one more thing, the pilot bearing, which goes inside the flywheel. When we pulled this off, the pilot bearing was actually sitting inside of here, and it's actually been stretched in a very strange way. If you stood it up on its end, it would actually be leaning forwards, even though it should be straight. It was very, very strange, but yeah, that's the Stage 1, or what's left of it. So one little extra that I've actually installed is a K20 slave cylinder for the clutch, as you can see down there. The old one wasn't actuating properly, that was causing the clutch to stay disengaged when I was changing gear, so it meant that sometimes changing gear was a bit more difficult than it should have been. This has pretty much fixed all of those issues. I installed it before I put the action clutch in, and really noted that it lightened the clutch feel up a little bit, which obviously putting a heavy pressure plate in would be a good idea. But yeah, that's pretty much been an awesome product. As you can see, it's connected to my OEM replacement line. As you can see down here, yeah, as you can see, this fitting I've swapped out from the original. by default it comes with an AN4 connection, but you can just knock the locking pins out and do the same on the original, and this slides straight in, same seal, same everything. So that's basically a direct swap if you want to make it that way. Just want to go over the feel of the clutch. It's a bit difficult obviously to describe, but basically yes, the pedal is slightly heavier. It does like to spring up a lot harder than an OEM pedal. Obviously the pressure plate is a lot stronger, and there is quite a few times when you get judder. So for example, if you're slowing down to a roundabout and you stay in the same gear, if you want to change down gear or change down a few gears, what you might find is that it judders when you try and engage the gear. Best thing to do is to blip the throttle when you're doing that. That smooths everything out. Also, pulling away from a standstill, if you obviously blip the throttle again or raise the revs to about 2000 RPM and then pull off, there is a biting point, so it's not completely on and off. On my car it's quite low. Obviously the clutch we just took out is quite worn, so obviously it was quite high. But there are, how can I put this? There are a lot of differences from the old one, and you just have to learn them. I mean, it's probably been 3 weeks now since we installed the clutch, and I've just about got there. I'm quite finicky with the engagement points, so it's taken me a long time to learn it. As for being a daily driving clutch, yeah, I've not had any problems in traffic. I mean, yes, you do change your style of driving slightly. Obviously, blipping the throttle has now become sort of the norm for some gear changes. I can't heel and toe, something I'd like to learn. Unfortunately, I can't blip the throttle while being on the brakes at the moment just because of the pedal setup. My feet in the way I am, the way I drive, I can't do that. So I am going to probably change the accelerator pedal and bring it over slightly to sort of aid that. But it's not essential. I have tried some high-speed braking into a corner and then changing down gears. Clutch doesn't seem to care if you put it into a lower gear when you're doing that. Obviously, if you're low RPM, then it does. But you know, I'm going to sacrifice that. It drives great when it's on throttle. It does seem to grab the gear a little bit nicer than it did before. There's been no funny noises or anything from the clutch at all. So yeah, it's definitely a good clutch. We'll see how long it lasts, obviously. The other one that was in the car lasted like 4 years. Probably about 2 of those years were just standard 245 horsepower, which is what it was running NA. And the rest of the time was 435 horsepower. We've been to Snetterton loads of times. We've been drag racing, got a 12.9 at 116. The reason why it was 12.9 is because the clutch was slipping. Not much you can do about that. Also the tyres were Federal 595 RSRs. Really not kind of your drag racing tyre. Sidewall's way too stiff. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll probably take it back to Sandapod at some point. That'd be probably pretty decent. Obviously you have to watch the drive shafts now because you probably snap them off if you try and launch it too hard, especially with the 235 tyres. But yeah, we'll see. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, make sure you subscribe.